rocks. Sit back and pour up your favorite drink. Hey, we're not the ones behind the wheel.
Hello and welcome back to F1 on the Rocks. My name is Brian Dower. I'm here with my buddy Will Smith.
Woo-woo.
And we are here to talk about Monaco. We finally got rain at the end of a race that we've been hoping and praying for, especially in Monaco. We will get to that, but first, what's up, Will?
Not much, my friend. It's good to see you as always.
You too.
Yeah, we've been good. We've been doing good.
Good stuff, man. I feel like it's been a while. We had that big break, and then Imola got canceled. We were back from Miami, but I feel like it's been months since we've hooked up here.
It does. It feels like it's been a while. Yeah, we had the big break, and then I had a little break. I took a hockey puck to the finger and snapped my fingertip in half. That was a fun one. Yeah, that's the lessons that you learn when you don't know too much about a sport is that they are still dangerous. You know.
Well, very nice. Nothing a few whiskeys won't fix, I'm sure. Speaking of which, what have you got in your glass tonight?
For our listeners, there's a bit of a surprise at the end of the episode, and so I figured that I would do right by you, Brian Dower.
Is it Tito's?
I'm gonna drink out of a bottle of Tito's today.
Yes,
I'm gonna drink right out of the bottle because the news that's coming is news that deserves a bottle drink.
Amen. No rocks tonight for Will, just straight out of the bottle. I love it. Perfect. Well, from my side, as you can imagine,
not in God.
I got some Tito's myself.
Let's go
on the rocks. Shocker. But yeah, nothing terribly new and exciting from my end. Same old stuff. Long weekend, a lot of swimming in the pool, riding bikes, all that good stuff with the fam. But it was great, man. We had a fun qualifying. We had a fun race, and let's dive into it. So I guess quali right off the bat, there's nothing better. You sent me a text Saturday, and there's nothing better than Monaco qualifying.
There's not. I tried to be good too, because like I know sometimes I'm catching it before like the general public who A, listen to the podcast and B, we communicate with, have watched it. But I was so hyped after watching that Q3 that I was like, someone has to know that this is so good, like such good racing. Yeah. And it was just fun to watch. You know, you see the qualifying times coming in and you see them stacking and you're like, no way, Ocon right now in P1, like what in the world's going on here?
Crazy.
And then boom, one after another, they just start slapping into that P1 position. And I was like, oh, if the race is anything like this, we're in for a treat this weekend for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The track just ramps up so much in quali. It's really one of those last person on the track. And Max I think he was one of the last ones to get that last Q3 lap in, but Alonso went up to P1 and everyone was going nuts when through, I think, 2 sectors of Max's lap, he was 2/10 down and then made it all up and more in the final sector.
We'll get with Michael and find the Twitter post he sent me. I'll find the link and put it up. But he sent me the post of there's been a guy that's done them before and you've sent me, but the 2 cars overlaid on the track doing sector 1 and sector 2. And then you finally see like in the last couple corners, Max was just a little bit faster on the gas coming out of the apex. And that's what got him that P1 coming out of Q3. It was really cool to see. But yeah, I mean, if you go back and you look at that track, it gives me, and I know it does to you too, it gives me like PTSD from the sim racing rig, because I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I tried to explain to Bailey too. I was like, it doesn't matter how much muscle memory you think you have or how many laps you've made around that track. It is nigh impossible to not make a single driving mistake. I don't care who you are, how good you are. Like you're going to make a mistake on that track. It's just that challenging. So leaving qualifying, I was like, man, these guys are firing on all cylinders. This is going to be a good one.
For sure. And speaking of mistakes, how about Perez in Q1? He went into turn 1. It looked like he just whiffed like on the braking point. Like he went so fast into turn 1, never had a chance. And obviously that's why he started 20th. But anyway, so one other thing before we get more into the race, but that I thought was really interesting was all of the upgrades. Obviously, Imola was canceled. A lot of teams had planned to bring all those upgrades for Imola. So tons of upgrades left, right, and center for everybody, but we still don't really have an understanding of how much impact they have because Monaco is so specific.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that. That's because like I'm sure a lot of those upgrades are meant for maybe some more high speed tracks. So the fact that they're not able to get up to a high speed and test maybe some floor changes that aren't really having an effect. Is that the main gist of it?
Yeah, yeah. I think generally speaking, like they never really get going fast enough and have any high speed turns where you can really test out like, hey, did these floor changes really do anything? Or,
Mm.
Mercedes having side pods, like did it really have much of an impact? But the really exciting thing is we don't have to wait long for Barcelona. Barcelona's this week, and that historically has been a test track.
Mhm.
Obviously, before we started testing at Bahrain. So it'll be very indicative on what upgrades are doing what for the teams this week.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens because it's like as insane and amazing as Monaco was, you still are left with that like desire to see some of those long high speed straights, and you get a little bit of that, but not the same way that we will in Barcelona. So yeah, good flag there.
Yeah, it should be interesting. What do you think before we move off the upgrades of the different looking Mercedes car? They've got side pods now. They kind of look a little bit like Ferraris, but also a little bit like Red Bulls.
I've seen some yellow zone, like some yellow overlay comparisons of I think it might have been the Ferrari side pod and their side pod, and the induct area is very different than I think anything anybody else is running right now. So it makes me wonder if like they know something that somebody else doesn't know. But at the same
Yeah,
time, I'm like, what if they're just trying to do something different because they already know what everybody else is doing and they've got kind of
right.
time to experiment? Like
Might as well give it a shot. Yeah.
they're doing okay in P2, P3, P4. So why not give it a swing and a shot at kind of getting out there again? But yeah, I don't, from like a scientific technological standpoint, it doesn't make too much logical sense to me how that would perform better than what we're seeing in some of the other cars. So I'd be
Right.
curious to see how it stacks up.
Yeah, me too. I'm interested in like optimistic. Like I'm not a massive Mercedes fan by any means, but like anything to tighten up that top group, is a win for the sport.
Were there any other teams that came out with some like bodacious changes to what they've got rocking?
Nothing radical. But the interesting thing is, this year, and maybe it started last year. I don't remember either last year or this year. The FIA basically came out with something that said like, hey, you have to show all of your upgrades, show exactly what you're bringing, have the car like on display, showing those changes. So the list, like every car had 10 upgrades. It was nuts. So we'll see. I don't know. Like AlphaTauri had a ton of performance upgrades. So did McLaren. I mean, everybody did. We'll see. It'll be very interesting with some of the high speed in Barcelona. And one of the other things in Barcelona, the end of that circuit has that super shitty slow chicane that's gone. They're not running that chicane anymore.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
I saw the post that somebody was like, Alonso has one of the only like track records of when that chicane wasn't there previously.
Yeah.
And someone was like, yeah, but don't fucking double guess this because Max has driven it so many times on iRacing without the chicane that he is just as legal as Alonso is. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's
okay.
funny.
Yeah,
that should be very interesting. Like, I think we're going to see a lot more action in that very last sector because now it's just going to be like a kind of like a 90-degree right-hander onto the start-finish straight. So it should be cool.
We should look forward to Wrecking Ball Russell and Pinball Wizard Stroll to go flying deep into that corner and knock some people off the track. Huh?
Absolutely. So we mentioned we were saved by the rain. I'm assuming, if you're listening to this, you saw the race. So with about, 15 to 20-ish laps, we got the rain that we were hoping for. Started slow, but ended up really coming down. And it totally... I was about to say it totally changed the race, but I guess pretty much everybody finished where they were prior to, aside from, people in 15th and 16th. But it brought a ton of, intrigue and interest to those last 30 minutes of that race.
Yeah, it certainly changed the dynamic too. I mean, there were some things that were going on from a team planning perspective that I'm not sure would have worked out had the rain not hit when it hit. You're like watching Max and he's riding on blistered mediums when other people are bitching about their hards. And it's like, how much longer, man? How much longer, man? And then the rain hits and he's able to come in for those inters, which I think was like pretty crucial for him to continue pulling off what he was doing there. But, I feel like a couple of a couple of teams maybe took a set of slicks before inters, and I kind of felt like they're idiots because like you made it that far, you've got some, I would say, far superior weather technology on those rigs telling you what's kind of coming this way, and you can't like stretch it another 2-3 laps. So the two that I noticed, and you might have seen some other ones, but specifically, I feel like Alpine kind of screwed Gasly a little bit on that pit strategy because they sent him in for mediums and then 3 laps later sent him back in to pick up the inters. And I think Ferrari did the same to Leclerc. Wasn't it like by a couple laps that he maybe could have hung out a little bit longer and just went straight to inters and probably popped up a couple spots on the grid? So
yeah, I think it was Leclerc too. And then obviously the gamble with Alonso. Alonso came in a lap and a half after the rain started, and I listened to the radio, and Alonso said, like, yeah, it's only wet in 2 corners. Like, the rest of it's dry. Give me slicks. They put on mediums. He's halfway through his outlap, and he radios back, I'm coming in for inters.
Yeah.
It's just like, damn it.
It's funny, though, because the way that, like, just that experience, the way it comes across on the radio too, is like he doesn't have to go into who said what wrong and all that. Like on the radio, it's just like, hey, get them ready. I need inters, yep. Let's keep racing, and I don't need to, we can sort our political differences out at a later time.
Yeah, agreed. I appreciate that about Alonso. Sainz was getting feisty on the radio with his team. I can't remember exactly what it was about. Something about his pit strategy or whatever, undercutting, I don't know, Ocon or whoever the hell it was, but he was pissed.
Yeah, he was doing his normal mental math gymnastics, trying to calculate laps and who's in front of him, and how much time he could get in and then get out. But in this case, he was pretty wrong.
Yeah,
they like
agreed.
What's going on? What did you think about Esteban Ocon's performance, man?
How about Esteban Ocon? Hand up, I'm not a huge fan, but good for him, man. I mean, because that Alpine is like the 5th fastest car, maybe. And I mean, he put it P4 in qualifying. He got moved up to P3 with Leclerc's penalty. But hats off to him. I mean, that's fucking driving.
Yeah, seriously. And like to the earlier point, it began in qualifying. Like it wasn't just like he showed up at the race. Like he was committed all weekend to performing well with a car and a team who kind of got called out a little bit leading into the race. I don't know if you saw some of the Twitter vibes, but it was like, hey, Alpine, like it's time to put up here because we don't want to sit in P5 all season long. So
yeah, good showing from them, because I think Gasly finished 6th, maybe.
I think 6th or 7th. Yeah, 6th or 7th. I mean, again, and he maybe would have done better had the pit strategy not been what I think was botched a little bit. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud of them, both of them for sure.
So I don't know if you saw. So Russell got the penalty. So it's raining. Russell goes off on that braking zone down the hill before the Lowe's hairpin. It's like a downhill right-hander, and he goes straight, reverses it, comes back on the track right into the side of Perez. And like what I thought was the craziest thing there is both cars were completely fine. And like if you go and watch that replay, like they fucking legitimately collided.
Yep,
that was nuts.
They bumped into each other. Yeah. It's interesting because some of the things that you bring up, like that you and I like are going to inevitably talk about, have already passed in front of me on social media. But one of the comments was like, we're so used to them moving at 170 plus miles an hour that when they bump into each other, which was like, as you mentioned, quick and pretty much like bumper to bumper, they still were only maybe going like 25-ish miles an hour at that point in time. So like, I'm glad that the carbon fiber is strong enough to hold up to like a 25 mile per hour bump. But yeah, to your point, it's like, man, the fact that Perez made it out of that without having to like go in and take a new wing was pretty remarkable. And the fact that Russell got away with basically backing out and only a penalty is, I think better than he could have wished for in that instance.
Yeah, for sure. That was like an MX5 iRacing move right there. Like someone just being like, fuck it, I'm coming back onto the track.
You're in my way, guys that are leading the race. Please let me back on. I'm in last. Yeah, that's me. I would do that. I'm the guy that would do that.
So talk to me about Yuki, our boy.
The thing about Yuki is I think he had a great race. I think he got I think he was ill prepared for those wet conditions. So what happened is the car started to get away from him a little bit. And maybe to your point, some of those new changes maybe had some effects that he wasn't ready to kind of handle, but the car was sliding around. He kind of pulls out, I forget what corner it is, but pulls out into the kind of safety escape and then starts to back up. And that's when I think at that point, Russell was behind him. So it's kind of like a traffic jam in a parking lot type vibe. And then he's on the radio, and so like not only is he sliding literally, but he's sliding back into his old way of being and cursing at the team, like I fucking hate these slicks, and everybody's like, dude, like it's okay, get the car back on the track, you know. But yeah, I mean, between him and Stroll doing some pinballing between cars and bouncing off people, I think we saw our fair share of collisions, and I hope that we don't run into too many of those at Barcelona. It would be nice to see like a nice clean race, and actually to your earlier point, bring up a good performance from all the cars, see what they're actually capable of without having to sit through 10 laps and all the extra strategy that comes with some yellow and red flags. So
yeah, agreed. It was I hope Yuki gets it back together. You could tell, and actually Sainz said it in his post-race interview. Somebody made a comment about him being snappy on the radio or whatever, and Sainz was like, listen, you just got to understand, like, we're racing for an hour and 50 minutes inside walls like this, like we're so fucking focused and tense on what's going on, like, yeah, I'm gonna say some shit on the radio. So like hopefully AlphaTauri's takes that leniency with Yuki, takes it under consideration. But he's had a great year, so I hope he doesn't slip back into his old ways.
I don't think he will. I think the fact that AlphaTauri has been pretty upfront and forward about talking about his improvement is a good thing. Like the fact that they're there to back him up. So
agreed.
Yeah, well, this brings us to one of my favorite sections of the show. Bullshit. I pulled some stuff for you. Some stuff that you may be aware of, but if not, it's for you and for our podcast listeners.
All right.
The Red Bull Racing Chief Engineering Officer is bouncing to McLaren effective January 1st.
Wow.
Now, this gentleman, whose name I shall leave unnameless at this time, has purportedly been responsible for some of the 2026 changes that Red Bull was making. So a guy that's fairly involved in the success of Red Bull is dipping out pretty soon to go to McLaren, and makes you wonder why.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
What's your knee-jerk instinct?
My knee-jerk instinct is Zach Brown's doing anything to save his job. Right?
Okay.
Spending all that cash.
Okay.
I hope it does something. I'm a McLaren fan.
Okay.
By the way, no comment on my shirt here.
I didn't. Oh, man.
Christmas present. We look like a bunch of legends.
Oh, you're missing the F-bomb on there, though.
I know, right?
That is a dope shirt, though, and I feel like if anything, we should all just be Haas fans and forget all the other teams. They don't really matter.
Agreed.
I'm gonna take a shot of my vodka out of the bottle on this one, but I think that this is so weird because, like, if it was Stroll and someone was footing a big paycheck, and sure, maybe Zach Brown is footing a big paycheck to make this guy jump, I'm wondering if there's things going on at Red Bull Racing that some of these guys are starting to be like questionable in terms of moral obligations. I'm out.
You never know. You never know. I mean, I think that's definitely a thing. They're both in the UK, so it's not like it's a
family change.
Yeah, anything like that. Like, who knows? That's an interesting speculation that I'm down to run with.
I'll put my tinfoil hat on for that one.
He's got it on.
In other news, Aston Martin opens their Silverstone facility.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much dough that cost.
Doesn't matter. Daddy Stroll foot the bill.
Sure did.
Yeah, he's not too worried about it. So, TV question. Have you ever watched on Amazon Prime Clarkson's Farm?
Oh, I fucking love it.
It's a fantastic show. Listeners, if you've not seen or heard of anything of Clarkson's Farm, I beg you to watch at least 1 or 2 episodes of that television show. You will love it. You'll lose yourself laughing at it. It's hilarious. The one-liner is Jeremy Clarkson buys a farm and tries to make shit work. And it's hilarious.
It's awesome. Even if you've never watched Top Gear, you don't need to be like a Jeremy Clarkson fan or something.
Yeah, no like allegiance to cars or motorsports or anything required to enjoy this television show. Anyways, I bring all that up to say Jeremy Clarkson tweets before the race. I'll buy you guys a pint if you podium this weekend. an Alpine podium this weekend, and so I feel like Twitter needs to get the momentum moving and be like, Jeremy needs to buy the entire team pints after that race because I think they deserve it.
Agreed. Good for them. Clarkson's the man. That shows the best.
Yeah, that's good. Fun fact, Alonso's second place finish elevated him above Kimi Räikkönen into the third most all-time second place finishes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder, do you know who first and second are?
I do. I was going to throw a trivia question at Mr. Trivia Man himself. Care to guess who the top two are?
Bottas? That's like, I guess I would say like Schumacher and Hamilton, but Bottas, I feel like just came in second so much behind Hamilton. Tell me, those are my three guesses.
That was all good guesses. I wouldn't have started with Bottas. The actual correct answer was Lewis Hamilton is number one and Michael Schumacher is number two.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know where Bottas falls on that list.
When we finish this, I've got to look that up.
Yeah.
Probably nowhere close.
Yeah, because it was over. I think the stats were like over the last like 50 years too. So
yeah. I'm a what have you done for me lately kind of guy.
Yeah. And last but not least, the most important of all of today's
bullshit
segment is this Twitter post of K-Mag and his daughter. And I think we all know, like, regardless of your love for Formula One and just the way that life sometimes beats you down, you have a tough day at the office and you need an escape from it. And you come home and you see your smiling kids and it just life is better for you. You realize that all the bullshit that you went through, that you went through just really doesn't matter. And this post is of K-Mag after the race. I'm sure it was a tough race for him, getting to grab his daughter and kind of walk through the post-race festivities. And it was really sweet. So
nice. That's awesome.
We'll link it in the podcast episode so you guys can check it out.
He's the only driver who you ever see their kids, really. I mean, I guess now that Seb's gone and Kimi's gone, I guess you saw Kimi's kids every now and then. I don't know how many drivers even have kids.
Well, I mean, when you take to account that Joe is 24, I mean, it's like there's only so many of them that
Hulkenberg, I think has like a baby. That's crazy. There might be like no fucking kids.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
All right.
K-Mag the family man. Yeah. K-Mag the family man. All right. Well, that brings us to. There it is. Get it. Fantasy F1, our fantasy F1 league where you can flex your team principal skills and show Toto who's boss.
Boom.
I kill it every time.
That was well done.
I should be getting paid by Grid Rivals for this one. Anyways, we had a good race weekend. So there were some things that happened right when Imola went by the wayside. The Grid Rivals team, shout out to Drace, went in and made a whole bunch of tweaks and changes to things, allowing people to basically retain those teams that they had probably drafted and forgot about. As such, protecting people from being screwed over. And they had to do a whole bunch of other things like recalculating the number of races in a season. A whole bunch of things happened as a result of Imola. But what I am seeing on the leaderboard is this shout out to the most points earned, the username NoMikey44. I feel like that's kind of clever because it's probably like no Michael. It's like the Toto thing, right? Like no Mikey.
No Michael.
No Michael.
This is not right.
This is so not right. Yes. He had 1,049 points, and he did a nice job because he had both Alpine drivers, both McLaren drivers, and he had Esteban as his talent driver. I was like, ooh, this guy throwing in some bottom tier teams for the win here.
Yeah, so that's impressive. Quick shout out. I think No Mikey 44 is my friend from work named Matt.
Nice.
Shout out Matt.
I'm
pretty sure this is him. We talked about it today, and he said he crushed it. He had Esteban as his turbo driver.
Yeah.
So I'm 99% sure this is him. So hats off. Congrats. I had to twist his arm to get him into Grid Rivals, and now he's like got spreadsheets, historical data. I'm exaggerating, but he's into it now.
Yeah, well,
which is awesome.
Listen, this is what we're here for. It's our pleasure to bring you guys a fun and exciting gambling type environment.
Amen.
Our current points leader is actually the one and only, the man behind the scenes that keeps the Grid Rivals moving, Drace. 5,741 points. He took an 8-point lead above Michael.260.48723, aka Michael K. And so it's a tight lead for 1 and 2, 1, 2, and 3 actually. Like there is room to really win it or lose it in these middle season races. So yeah, lowest weekly score, Barat.528098844, scored 81 points. He's so far down on the leaderboard that I can't even see what team he drafted. So sorry, man. I just read the score report that I get from him. But our honorable mention goes to Fucker Booger. He jumped from 118th to 85th, and also his name is really cool. I couldn't. There's no way that he wasn't getting honorable mention today. So Fucker Booger, if you listen, and I'll tag you in the Grid Rivals chat, shout out to you for an awesome name and a great job last week.
Shout out. Yeah. Big move up the leaderboard.
Yeah, for sure. So that's our Grid Rivals update. That's going to continue going on all season long, and we're happy to keep you posted in there as we do that. And then that brings us to Rambling and Gambling. So I did some things. In our last episode, we didn't actually set our pick'ems, but we hypothetically talked about what our pick'ems would have been if we were setting our pick'ems.
Okay.
So the hypotheticals became our picks. Because in the news at the outro portion of the segment, there has to be a clear winner and a clear loser in our pick'em segment. And so Brian's choices last week were Max is going to win and or possibly Yuki gets P11. My choices were Lewis is going to win and or Charles is going to win. And I doubled them up because it's like this really helps cement the fact that Brian, ding, 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 is our weekly pick'em recaps winner. Yep, you got the Max win. You got the Max win that gave you whatever odds Max would have had in unit form to be the winner. And so,
I'll take it. It's a little bit cheap of me to go Max win, but I'll take it.
Hey,
no pictures on the scorecard.
Sometimes if you want to win your bets, you take the favorite. That's
right.
And sometimes if you want to win your bets and you want the Miami Heat to go to the NBA playoffs, you bet on the Miami Heat to beat the Celtics, even though they're huge underdogs. And I did that and it worked out.
Boom. Yep. My buddy Sean, shout out Sean, he doesn't listen to this podcast, but he took the Panthers to win the cup before the playoffs started. And he kept asking me after each round, should I take the buyout? Should I take the buyout? And I'm like, let it fucking ride. And he's riding it.
Yep. There's a certain point that you let it ride. I coincidentally did the same thing, and I am sitting on, it's not like a big bet, but I'm sitting on both the Panthers to win and the Nuggets to win. And so if that happens, parlay like a pretty big win for like a $5 bet. I'm pretty excited about it.
Nice. Love that.
5 to win, 114. Not bad.
Hell yeah. So as we move toward the outro, don't send questions. As Will alluded to at the start of the episode, this will be our final episode of F1 on the Rocks. So quick cheers to that. Clang. So it's our final episode. We've done this for a full year. So I think this is our 27th episode. We had 20 last year. We're 7 now. So a year ago when Will and I were shooting the shit about doing this, we recorded an episode that never went out, and it was the Monaco episode. So we've given it a year. We had a ton of fun doing it. We spent a couple dollars of ours getting it there. Nothing crazy, but something fun to do. It's taken its toll from a time perspective, I think, on both of us a little bit, but thank you to everybody who listened. Thank you to everybody who liked a Twitter post, shared something, did a Patreon. Will, I'll let you hop in obviously here too. But before you do, I think one of the nicest things for me starting this was getting to reconnect with you, man. We worked together and were close a long time ago, and then just our paths kind of took different routes, and we were able to come back and spend some time together. And I really appreciate that.
I appreciate that too, man. It's nice. It's really cool that we had this opportunity over the last year to kind of like use this to be a fuel to kind of reignite a friendship. And I say that because I'm thankful and grateful to all of our listeners that are our old friends and new friends and coworkers and colleagues who took a moment to send this to someone or to recommend that somebody else listen to it. That meant a lot to me. Every time someone else said, "Hey, I'm listening to this," it got me really amped and excited, and it will continue to. But my advice, my parting advice, my F1 on the Rocks parting advice would be, if you have an old friend, an old colleague, an old mentor, or somebody that you kind of cared about deeply at one point in time, send them a message, check in on them, see how they're doing. Like, the world has been rough. And I think at the end of the day, if we can just be there for the people that, we've loved and cared for, then that makes the world a better place. And so F1 on the Rocks was a podcast about fun, but we can take care of each other and our friends. And I think that's really what we should be aiming to do.
Yeah. Well said, man. I really appreciate it. And again, thanks for everyone who was kind of along for the ride. We had over 1,000 downloads and people from all over the world. So it's cool. And, not to say we won't be back 5 or 10 years from now, who knows, when we're in different places in life, but it was a ton of fun, and thank you for everybody for listening.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that for now. And when we cash in on our 401ks and don't have anything obligation-wise, we'll see you guys back. Boom. That's it for now, guys. We love you. We'll see you soon.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to F1 on the Rocks. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe now and watch for updates at f1ontherocks.com and on social at F1 on the Rocks.
Woo! That was